So good morning once again, dear ones. It is an honor and a privilege and a joy to be with you again. My thanks to Reverend Gina. I know that she and Mike are out somewhere on the blue waters, sleeping and eating and drinking and resting and just having a wonderful time. So Reverend Gina, when you see this, if you do, thanks so much for the opportunity. It was so kind of you to go on vacation so that I could come back to Santa Anita. This is just so cool. So my topic for this morning is, as a little child, working toward the wow. And we'll talk more about that. So Mona shared with us earlier the words of Jesus from Matthew 18, verses 3 and 4. And Jesus said, "Truly I say to you, unless you change and become as a little child, you shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. Whoever therefore will humble himself like this child shall be great in the kingdom of heaven." Now note that Jesus said child-like, not child-ish. And that's a whole separate conversation. But the childlike qualities of trusting, following, and believing. And what did Jesus mean by the kingdom of heaven? I would suggest that it's not, and you get to believe whatever you believe about the hereafter, but I would suggest that the kingdom of heaven is not just where we go when we're done here. It is the moment-by-moment experiences that we have, just like hell. And I can say that because we're doing a talk this morning, so I can say hell. And hell as a moment-by-moment experience as compared to the fiery place that the other people go to when they die. So again, the moment-by-moment experience is not just what happens in the hereafter. A small child normally trusts their parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, older siblings, dear ones, older dear ones in their lives. They believe them and follow what they say most of the time. Because a small child is dependent on their parent or their authority figure for whatever it is they need in their lives. And I would suggest that often, and I hope that this is the case, that they are more than willing to ask, seek, and knock for whatever it is that they want, without being concerned for the how, just the what. Not being concerned with, well, it's going to take me a few days, or we can't do that till next month. Not concerned with that. It's just, this is what I want, and I want it now. It's none of my business where it comes from. And if you have or had children, grandchildren, other small children in your life, you know that patience sometimes is limited because they don't need to hear about the supply chain and how long it's going to take for it to get here. They just know that this afternoon, whatever it is, they want it. Remember the words of Charles Fillmore, the founder of Unity. He said, "The inexhaustible resource of spirit is equal to every demand. There is no reality in lack. Abundance is here and now manifest." So that word demand always takes me back for a second because it sounds like I'm going out into the parking lot and shaking my fist at the sky and demanding God up there to do something. But of course, that's not what we're talking about. The demand is the absolute knowing. It is speaking our word. It's doing our spiritual mind treatment, our affirmative prayer, and saying, this is what I want to accept, this is what I want to release, and then saying, and so it is, and then absolutely knowing and feeling that something happens, something changes. And we'll talk more about that. Because after we say, and so it is, then what happens? Ernest Holmes, I think, wrote, said, "My word never returns to me void." So when we do our work, absolutely knowing and trusting that something happens, something happens. But what do we believe about that? So this idea and this experience came to me a few months ago, and the workshop that I'll talk about after a while came to me in about March or April, and maybe it was February or March, when the stock market was doing some strange things. And remember those days, and if you have a 401k, maybe if you check the balance, your 401k looked more like a 1k. Or your stock portfolio or whatever was bouncing up and down. And there was the potential for that fear and the potential for that concern, and what am I going to do if, and what am I going to do when? And the still small voice reminded me, so what do you really believe about this? Not what Ernest Holmes teaches, not what we read in the Science of Mind textbook, not what we get from our classes, not what I share with you, but what do we believe in our heart of hearts related to who Spirit is and what happens when we pray, when we say, "And so it is." How is our relationship with our higher power? We just said the Lord's Prayer, which is so wonderful, and it starts with "Our Father." And I am incredibly fortunate because my earthly father was one of the most loving, nurturing, welcoming human beings I have ever met. And so I can use that word very open-heartedly. I don't know if that's a word now, but I used it, so it is. Open-heartedly and when I refer to my heavenly Father, just as my earthly father. But maybe that doesn't resonate for you, and it doesn't for a lot of people, and that's okay. Because she doesn't mind what we call her, only that we call her. Only that we have that relationship with this loving, nurturing presence that Jesus describes in the Bible. If you come from traditional Christianity, you might have a little residue still about original sin. And you remember the story that Adam and Eve did their thing in the Garden of Eden and did something they shouldn't do, and so they got kicked out of the garden, and so from now on, everybody is born into sin. And I know, I know, right? And I've gotten past that almost every day. But do we really believe in our deservedness? Do we really believe that we are the essence, expression, and experience of Spirit? Or is there some of that old residue, I'll call it for lack of a better word? And how important it is for us to go back and check, what do I really believe when I say, "And so it is"? And does the universe always respond to me? Or am I up to my credit limit this month? Or I don't really deserve this? Or I'm not good enough? How important it is for us to recognize that and to question that. One of my favorite quotes from Ernest Holmes is from the little book, This Thing Called You. He writes about, and you remember the story from the Bible, the feeding of the 5,000 and the little boy who gave the loaves and fishes to Jesus. And Ernest writes, nothing has happened to reality since that little boy brought the loaves and fishes to Jesus. God has not changed. Nature has not changed. Law has not changed. Truth has not changed. Perhaps that little boy is still standing there with outstretched hands and glistening eyes. Perhaps you are that little boy. The man is there also, the man of divine wisdom, the God-intended man, Let the little boy hand the loaves and fishes to this divine man within you, while the intellect gives thanks and the spirit performs its miracle of love. I think you'll agree with me in saying that this year in Southern California, in Los Angeles, has been an oh my God year. And you could add some adjectives to that statement if you wanted to, and that aren't appropriate, but dang. So how are we? How are we? How important it is for us to remember that we can give, not give up, but give in to that presence within us and remind ourselves that we are the beloved and we are loved and nurtured and protected, and we keep moving. We keep moving. So think about this experience of small children and deservedness and original sin and all of that. Whenever I think about kiddos, and I'm so excited, I have 7 grandchildren. I know. From one son and daughter-in-law that live up in Oregon. I haven't seen them in a little over 2 years, and I'm going up next month. And I'm so excited to get to spend some time with the kids. And they are ages from 5 to 15. So I'm past toddlers, but I've got small children and then preteens and teenagers. But when I think about small children and this experience of becoming as a little child, I'm reminded of this wonderful book. The title is Smile for No Good Reason by Lee Jamplosky. And he talks about toddler wisdom. And if you don't remember anything from today's talk, I hope that you'll remember these 3. Toddler wisdom. Bye-bye. People, circumstances, situations leave us. Do we hold on for dear life, whether it was in our best interest to stay or not? Or do we allow ourselves to recognize that there's something better and we can say, bye-bye. All gone. Finished with my son Brandon absolutely loved broccoli. Raw broccoli dipped in ranch dressing. He called it trees. And so he absolutely loved his, right? Yeah, delicious. Loved his broccoli and ranch dressing, but then he ate it all up, and it was all gone. But what about tonight? What about tomorrow? Will there be enough? Will we be able to go and get more? Or do we use up what we have and say, all gone, knowing that Spirit always provides us whatever it is that we need? So as we spend, when we know the truth of our being, when we know that our money is not pie, when we spend what we have, we absolutely know that the abundance of the universe flows in and there's more money and there's more broccoli. Bye-bye, all gone, and my favorite, whoopsie, spilled the milk, stepped on the dog, forgot that appointment. For the love of God, and if you've heard me speak before, you might remember that that's one of my catchphrases from my ego is, for the love of God, Jerry, how could you be so stupid? How much time do we spend in regret about what we did or didn't do versus saying, whoopsie, so bye-bye, all gone, and whoopsie. Children don't need to figure out how it's going to happen. They don't know if it's coming. And how often do we do our spiritual mind treatment, our affirmative prayer, we are treating for greater income. We're treating for a new job. We're praying for a new relationship, and assign all of the structures to the universe. So it needs to come this way. It looks like this. It walks like this. It talks like this. It has to be this versus this is what I want, and Spirit, you get to figure it out. Or do we assign the limitations that it has to be UPS? It couldn't be FedEx. It couldn't be DHL. It couldn't be Postal Service. It has to come the way we think it's going to come. How cool it is, and I know you've had this experience, that we do our affirmative prayer, our spiritual mind treatment. We say, and so it is, and then allow Spirit to do what Spirit does, and whatever it is comes into our lives in the most amazing ways. And we'll get to that in a minute. So I hope you're planning to stay with me for the workshop this afternoon. It'll be about an hour and a half, and we're going to talk about this not knowing, about the don't know mind in strange and wonderful times. I don't know how this is going to play out. I don't know how Spirit is going to bring my good to me, but I know I'm going to be okay. And I know you've had that experience, because I certainly have. And when we allow that, because I don't know about you, but so often I assign levels of difficulty to my affirmative prayer. So I can do a parking place at Costco at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday with no problem at all. And God says, no big deal. Saturday morning at 11:30 is a little more dicey. 2 days before Christmas at noon, that is big stuff. But Course in Miracles reminds us that there's no order of difficulty in miracles unless we assign it. Or do we allow Spirit to do what Spirit does? I had a rental condo in El Cajon, east of San Diego, that I put on the market in January, right at the time when the stock market was starting to do what the stock market did. And my ego, and you might remember Wayne Dyer says that ego stands for edging God out. My ego said, well, this is not the best time. This is going to be really difficult. You should wait. And the still small voice said, no, this is what you said. So allow Spirit to do what Spirit does. And of course it sold. And of course it was easier than I could have imagined. But how important it is, again, as a little child, I don't need to be concerned with the details. I just know that I stated my word, and I know that Spirit is going to do what Spirit does. So how do we talk to God? You know, that great little book, Ernest Holmes' book, Can We Talk to God? Absolutely wonderful book. But how do we do that? And as you probably remember, in religious science, we have the 5 steps, I beg your pardon. 5: recognition, unification, choosing, acceptance, thanksgiving, and release. Right, it's been a while. The 5 steps of treatment. And very often, so we're quiet in our room, we're quiet in church, we're doing what we're doing. And we go through the steps, and it's wonderful. I don't know about you, but it's been my experience that I don't always have time for that. Sometimes my treatment is one word that is not appropriate for the pulpit. And you can figure out. but there are other ways as well, and I would suggest that, yes, that's the prescribed method, the 5 steps, and it's wonderful, but nobody's out there checking the boxes and saying, no, you missed one. Nobody's doing that, because who are we talking to? Who are we convincing? Ourselves. So we do that spiritual mind treatment, but there are other ways, and one of the ways, and I love this book, Help, Thanks, Wow, The 3 Essential Prayers by Anne Lamott. And so you were worried that how I was going to bring wow into this, so stick around, because here it comes. So, help. Ever had just a one-word treatment? A one-word affirmative prayer? I don't have time. I'm angry. I'm terrified. I don't know what to do or say. Help. In the book, she writes, praying help means that we ask something, referring to the universe, to give us the courage to stop in our tracks right where we are and turn our fixation away from our problems. We stop the toxic peering and instead turn our eyes to something else, to our feet on the sidewalk, to the middle distance, to the hills. We surrender. Help, thanks. Without, and quoting Anne Lamott, without revelation and reframing, life can seem like an endless desert of danger with scratchy sand in your shoes. And yet, if we remember or are reminded to pay attention, we find so many sources of hidden water, so many bits and chips and washes of color in a weed or the gravel or a sunrise. There are so many ways to sweep the sand off our feet, so we say, oh my God, thank you. And then as we do that and get past that and go on with life, at some point, and I don't know about you, but my experience is sometimes it takes a little while, and it's the way homer. Have you heard that expression? You know, I wanted to say that, I needed to say that, I couldn't say that, and then I'm 10 miles down the road and I'm on my way home, and I get of course, I should have said that, or I should have done that. But it's the wow. That was easier than I could have imagined. How in the world did I get that thought to do that, to go there, to call that person? Where did that thought come from? We know exactly where that thought came from. It's the still small voice. It's our connection with and to Spirit. Wow. She writes, when all is said and done, spring is the main reason, and I would suggest summer as well, is the main reason for wow. Buds opening and releasing, mud and cutting winds, not so much in California, but that's okay. Bright green grass and blue skies, nests full of baby birds. In spring, we expand and stretch in all directions. It's green exuberance and giddiness. Wow or wonder takes our breath away and makes room for new breath. Maybe that's why they call it breathtaking. When we become as a little child, we listen to our hearts, to what really lights us up and makes our tails wag. We also look out beyond the horizon, beyond appearances, beyond social media, beyond the conversation on the street, beyond the nonsense, and recognize what's possible. Because peace and oneness and knowingness is the truth of our being and is always possible for us. Because don't we want to work toward the wow and then recognize the wow? I had a wow in Mission Viejo on the way up this morning. I live in San Diego, so I did the about 2-hour drive. Total ease and grace, 65 miles an hour or better the whole way. Thank you, traffic angels, this morning. But I had a wow this morning because I was at Disneyland, which is a wow in and of itself, on Thursday. And I'm there with my boyfriend, and we're doing our thing. And if you've been there, you know, you do Pirates of the Caribbean, and you do the Haunted Mansion, and you do Space Mountain, and all the rest of that. And he really wants to do the Guardians of the Galaxy Tower. If you've not been there, the Guardians of the Galaxy Tower of Terror, I think they call it, or they certainly should, because I don't do heights so much. And this is however many stories, and you go up you go up the stairs, and you go up the stairs, and you go up the stairs, and you get on the thing, and you sit down, and you belch yourself in, and you say your Hail Marys or whatever you do. And there's video there, and it drops, and it comes back up again, and it drops, and it comes back up again, and it drops. And it comes back up again, and then the wall disappears, and so you're looking out however many stories up toward Orange County. I know, right? And I've done that a few times, and it's okay. It's not my favorite, but Oliver really loves to do that, and so it's okay. And we did it, and he said, this time, don't close your eyes. And I didn't. And it was kind of cool. So we're in line for and it was fine, and I lived to tell about it, right? Because however many 100,000 people do this every day, and everybody was wonderful, and I mean, so come on now, Jerry. But what I got in the car on the way up this morning was, when we're going through what we're going through, we might be tempted to close our eyes and hold on for dear life. But if we keep our eyes open, we see what Spirit does with us, to us, and for us. We see the possibilities. We see that I didn't need to be afraid of that. I didn't need to be afraid of that. And if it works, because that was the other thing when I sold the condo, I kept reminding myself it either works or it doesn't. That's why we call it science of mind, because it works for everybody the same way all the time. So if it works for that parking place at Costco, it works for the parking place at Disneyland, it works for selling the condo, it works for keeping me safe and this ride at Disneyland. If we keep our eyes open, we see this most amazing experience called life, and how we are so loved and so protected and so divinely guided. The mystic poet Rumi says, and I'll paraphrase, life has secrets to tell you, don't go back to sleep. So as we're consciously conscious, as we're aware of this amazing thing called life, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on out there, but we're safe. We're so loved. We're so guided. Because Ernest Holmes wrote this, if it's the Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom, it should be our good pleasure to receive it. I hope you'll stay with me this afternoon as we do a deeper dive into what we believe about Spirit. So wonderful to be with you all today. Thank you so much. Namaste.